Subscribe to Simply Bitcoin.
Let's do this! All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome in. This is another episode of the Meme Factory podcast. This is test stream number 38, featuring Bitstein. For those of you who don't know who Bitstein is, shame on you. And also, Bitstein, could you introduce yourself?
Howdy. Thank you for having me. Is this where I read the...
No, you just introduced yourself.
Oh, I actually? Okay, yeah. I'm Bitstein. Been in the Bitcoin space for quite a while now. Probably known best
Also,
for...
Bitstein, could you introduce yourself?
One of you assholes turn the volume down.
Probably best known for Satoshi Nakamoto Institute, the noted podcast, and some of my tweets and some of my talks. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your talk in particular about dialectics and rhetoric with regards to Bitcoin is like the holy grail when it comes to Bitcoin memeing. There's not a question there. I just thank you for it.
You're so welcome. I'm glad that it brought you value. I think a lot of people don't realize just how much of like a cage match this entire public discourse is. And they go into, they take their knife to a gunfight. And but it's even worse because they go in, they don't even bring a knife. They just like try to bring hugs or something. And yeah, you're going to get wrecked.
Yeah, the whole point's to dominate the competition, right?
Absolutely.
All right, and to that end, this evening we have a sponsor, and I explained it to you a little earlier on this podcast. Our sponsors, we're able to get them because when we book a guest, we tell them that the guest is actually going to read the ad copy. And I sent you yours a little bit ago. Whenever you're ready, Bitstein, if you could go ahead and read that out for us, that'd be fantastic.
Sure. Hi, my name is Michael Bitstein, and this episode of the Meme Factory podcast is brought to you by the only thing you should ever feed a shitcoiner: domination. Is some shitcoiner defining your narrative for you? Does some blue check not understand that his argument against Bitcoin is actually an argument for Bitcoin? Are paid shills constantly bombarding you with poorly researched FUD? It might just be that time for you to don your leather bodycon suit and dominate these clowns. Reframe that shitcoiner narrative and set the boundaries of the argument. Agree with that blue check and amplify his message. He's right. Money laundering is a huge problem, and we need to replace shitty, easily laundered fiat with open, harder to launder Bitcoin. Those paid shills haven't done their research. They're quoting incorrect stats and misinterpreting data on purpose. Fuck them. They're stupid, and you should tell them. No respect. Take their dignity from them and hand its deformed ghost back on a silver platter. The enemy is all around us dropping FUD bombs, so do your part today to dominate them. Scorn them, reframe their arguments, agree and amplify with their clearly pro-Bitcoin talking points, and send them all back to their natural state. Pink Wojaks.
Yay, nice. Fuck
Very
them.
well done. Now
We can get paid now.
Thank you.
All right.
Before we get started, Greg, we would be remiss if we just didn't do a moment of silence for Ray Liotta, R.I.P.
Moment of silence for Ray.
Thank you. Wake up, Greg. It's go
Is
time.
it Leota
Right.
or Leota?
Leota. So anyway, what the hell is the Nakamoto Institute?
Great question. The Nakamoto Institute is a website that I started back in 2013 as a way to showcase the writings of Satoshi Nakamoto, his public writings, the sort of literature of the cypherpunks and crypto anarchists that came before Satoshi and kind of defined the world in which Bitcoin can flourish, and also do a lot of economic analysis of Bitcoin. So try to apply Austrian economics to Bitcoin so we can properly understand what the hell this thing is.
Okay, yeah, it was on the website a little bit earlier today just to check it out. It is very poorly designed and hard to navigate through, but really appreciate all the
You know,
information.
it was my first production web app ever back when I was in college. So, and I haven't updated it that much since. Eventually, I'll get some better design in there. But yeah, sorry about that.
All right, so you've got some very famous tweets espousing, your theory is how to deal with no coiners and shit coiners and pre coiners. Um, what have been some of your more successful interactions online in the realm of trolling?
I think my most successful, I don't know, it's not necessarily the one that has the most likes, although it does have a lot of likes, and it was probably my first one to get a lot of likes. But in 2017, I had a tweet that managed to rustle the jimmies of the financial industry so much that it was printed in the Financial Times,
No.
although it was censored because they're afraid of the power of certain technical terms to describe the competitors to Bitcoin.
Oh.
So this tweet, I'll probably get it wrong. I don't have it in front of me, but it was effectively, you, a Wall Street trader, spend 10 years in school, 100-hour work weeks, never see your family, excited about your 9% gains. Me, a Bitcoiner, shitposting on Twitter, reading books, eating steaks, enjoying my 900% gains.
Hell yeah.
And it got printed in the Financial Times, which was quite something. I had someone. It was actually hard to find a physical copy, but I had some mailed to me, so I could treasure that and hold on to it. And I was told that same tweet. A friend of mine in New York was around a lot of finance people. They had no clue who I was. They're not Bitcoiners or anything. And he overheard people talking about my tweet and how angry it made them. So the fact that I could just create butthurt in the in the ether out there, it really made me proud. So I think that was my favorite achievement, and everything's been downhill since.
So you upset the chartalists? Did I say that word right?
Yeah. I mean, they're easy to upset. You just say that the state doesn't create money, and they get really, really upset with you.
You just say that they're
Just open your mouth. You just say the word Bitcoin.
Their fiat is backed by debt, and they got nothing to say about that.
No. Well, you brought up Ether. So tell me, why doesn't proof of stake work?
Proof of stake doesn't work. Someone had a great little thing today I saw on Twitter, and I think it really sums it up, which is proof of stake is subjective, while proof of work is objective. So, proof of work operates on like hard opportunity costs, based on the randomness of SHA-256. We know that it takes approximately, or statistically, a certain amount of energy and computational power to produce a certain hash. But with proof of stake, you don't have to commit yourself to that at all. You can sign off a block on whatever chain you want and just go along with whatever wins. So because of that, there's no true opportunity cost. This is the classic nothing at stake problem. And it seems, I don't keep up with the research, but it seems like every attempt to sort of push proof of stake forward is really just building epicycles upon epicycles on this, nothing at stake issue. And with that, what it also means is if you enter a proof of stake system, you fire up a node and somehow you're able to get an Ethereum full node running, or I should say Ethereum 2.0, which it's not even launched yet. They talk a big game and they still don't have it. But if you theoretically had this proof of stake coin and you boot up a full node, you effectively have to ask someone, hey, which chain should I be following? And so that's naturally going to be subjective. It's going to be trusted. Whereas with Bitcoin, there is an issue with discovering people on, to boot up your node, and who are the first people that you talk to. And that's it's actually an interesting problem. But as long as you can start talking to people on the Bitcoin network, proof of work will shine its way through as this objective beacon that you can follow all the way to the tip of the chain that everyone agrees on.
You mean objective, right?
Did I say that it was?
I just want to make sure, because I also
proof
didn't
of
know
work
what an
is
epicycle
objective. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the core of the issue.
You can also answer Greg with "fuck you, Greg" whenever he asks a question.
Greg has never been mean to me, so I'll reciprocate the kindness until he throws the first swing.
He just threw a swing.
I'll do it for you. Don't worry. Fuck you, Greg.
But by asking me a question, to have the gall to open his mouth.
How
to the great
dare he?
I don't know what epicycles mean. I want to know what it means.
So epicycles, Ptolemy was an astronomer from a long time ago, and he was pushing the geocentric model of the universe, where everything's going around the Earth. And I'd make the argument that since everything, all physics is relative and whatnot, you could theoretically just as easy describe the universe from the perspective of Earth. However, it becomes much more complex because of all the ways, because things are not orbiting Earth, the path of everything around it is really complex. So over time in astronomy, in order to figure out, it's you look at Mercury or whatever, and it's okay, well, now it's going the other way. And we call that, it's in retrograde. When that happens, their way of thinking through it was not okay, well, maybe our whole model of the Earth being in the center of the universe is not the easiest one to figure this out. They hadn't figured that out yet. So instead they came up with epicycles, which is, well, actually it is orbiting the Earth, but then every once in a while, there's this little mini loop that it goes through on its way around. And every time we see a retrograde, that's just another one of these mini loops. And so they keep piling those on, and it has to get more and more complex to describe what they're seeing. And it's not necessarily wrong per se, because they are mapping out the movement of things, but it's making things way more complex than it needs to be. And a lot of all of that math goes away once you just take the heliocentric model. Yeah. So the epicycles are those little loops. So, I think about that a lot because I see a lot of people's arguments for all kinds of different things, and they just feed into the complexity. And while in our circles, we rightfully love giving Taleb a hard time, the one heuristic that he has that I do really like, I actually like a number of his heuristics, but I don't think that they're laws, and he seems to, because they work to rationalize whatever he's feeling at the day. But he had one, via negativa, this idea of removing variables, often being a good way to, get clarity or fix up a system. And we see that a lot. We see people instead of via negativa, they go the opposite. They add more variables. Things get more complex, and it just makes it even harder to figure out what's going on because you're just kind of digging yourself in. So that's my little.
Talking about epicycles, Sean, is that T-shirt sleeveless?
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't catch that word.
He said Sean.
He asked if I'm wearing a sleeveless T-shirt right now.
He asked if Sean was wearing a sleeveless T-shirt.
He asked if Sean was wearing a sleeveless T-shirt.
Thanks, Becca, for the.
It's a rule if you're a redhead on this podcast, you have to be wearing a sleeveless.
Nice, we got two gingers here. This is great. We're overrepresenting a certain minority right now.
Sleeveless gingers.
Is it possible, Bitstein, to overrepresent a minority?
I don't know. I don't know what the correct balance of gingers is. And I'm not God, so I'm not going to proclaim a correct number of gingers.
What, you don't have a heuristic for this?
It's like I'm listening to Noted right now.
I mean, the heuristic, I think, I think South Park gave us the heuristic, but I don't know that it holds. I don't know if you guys are truly soulless.
So going back to epicycles, basically the dollar is the earth and Bitcoin is the sun.
What? No.
No.
Like Francis Coppola is Ptolemy, right? And Satoshi
No.
Satoshi is Copernicus.
I'm the
it's all revolving around
center.
the earth, and it's not.
I'm the center.
And it's creating all these problems. But if you measured it around the sun, it'd be way easier.
You know what? No. We're going to break this down. Labrahoddle. Give us a score.
Yeah, the scores. So Sean got a -3 points.
Yep. Yep.
Pedro got a pizza.
Tu puta madre.
Plan.
Oh, hey,
We're live, Sean.
hey, oh.
We're gonna
Let's
get
go.
suspended. Yeah, Plan Marcos got a window. RD got a big microphone again. Yellow. For yellow, I have a dirty cloth.
Dirty clothes?
No, cloth.
Yeah,
Oh,
cloth.
cloth? One cloth?
Yep.
All right.
Two.
Two cloths.
Yeah,
Multiple.
yeah. Potato got 2 potato,
Yes.
but a smashed potato with cheese. Becca football, and Bitstein got a 10 so far.
Nice.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I think it's the first 10 in
That's
the
the
show.
first 10?
We've never
Wow.
had a 10, Mr.
I'm
Bitstein,
honored.
So congrats.
Jeez. Yeah, you should be.
I still don't know what that bit means. I don't get it.
Because of gold, it's replacing gold. Bit.
Scores.
Can you let him say it, Sean?
Yeah, let him say it, Sean.
Yeah, my legal name is Goldstein, but Bitcoin's better than gold.
Yellow was talking about the Labra bit, by the way.
I think he was.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did a little thing, but you guys didn't catch on.
Oh, so we're all stupid.
Yeah, we're all
Yeah.
just dumb.
Yep.
All right. Let's push this along. Let's talk about ESG. Why should Bitcoiners be fighting the ESG narrative, Mr. Steen?
And is it a battle that we can win
Yes.
after 30 years of brainwashing?
So it's simple enough. ESG is communism, and we should be anti-communism because it does not function.
What
So
if we just haven't tried it correctly yet?
yeah, you know, that's like one of those tropes you hear a lot. You know, like communism is something that works. It works on paper, just not in practice. But I would argue that it doesn't work on paper either. So I don't think there is any trying it correctly. And this is also why I think the sort of horseshoe theory with capitalism does not work. Because
back that up. What's the horseshoe theory of capitalism?
Are you familiar with horseshoe theory?
I'm familiar with horseshoes.
So there's this idea of horseshoe theory where when you take two extremes, they end up mirroring each other a lot. And so you often, you hear people kind of make that criticism of capitalism too, where it's like, oh, well, kind of making fun, like, oh, well, we just didn't try real capitalism. And they see that as an argument against, whatever thing. But the difference is we can make a theoretical defense of capitalism, but I don't think that any theoretical defenses of communism can hold up. And I think, the great Ludwig von Mises demolished it all, 100 years ago with his economic calculation problem. It just showed that there is simply no way to be able to have a proper price system without private property.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? So basically, if you have a central planner trying to manage an entire economy, they have no basis by which to look at profit and loss because they're not actually engaging in any kind of trade with anyone. So you can't come up with prices from just like a central brain. So they try to, they tried all kinds of things. They can just make up a price. You can see what the Americans are charging for things. But just because you have that price, it doesn't actually take into account the actual opportunity costs that that central planner is trying to engage in. And so if you don't have private property, you have no mechanism for profit and loss, because you have no way of knowing, like, yeah, we decided, we're going to make, 500 tanks for the USSR, but like, at what cost? What else could we be doing with those resources? There's no like actual economic way for them to figure that out. And because of that, because you can't know what the opportunity cost is, you can never actually know if you're making good decisions or not. So you have no feedback mechanism for yourself to decide. It's like, oh, if I make those tanks, it comes at the cost of me not being able to make food, and now I'm starving. And so it just over time it degrades and it eats up all the capital, and you fail as a system. It cannot sustain itself.
If only politicians could play like Civilization or something, right?
Yeah, well, I would actually like if we could, we could strap them into like VR and give them like an Oculus, and so they wake up in the Matrix and they can just play Civilization all day, and they think they're doing something, but really they're just in the Matrix playing a video game. And then the rest of us can, just live our lives like normal people without them bothering us. But anyway, to go back, like, yeah, you can look into the calculation problem, but basically, to really go back, ESG is a means for control, and it does not actually have anything to do with environment, social. Is it social justice? I think is what it actually stands for, but like, social good and governance. Yeah. It's not about those things. It's about control. And I see often people, Bitcoin is the real ESG. Because we as good people, think like, well, Bitcoin is good for the environment because we see how it benefits with energy production and human flourishing and being all the things, you can go down with that. It's obviously a social good because we know the benefits of having a sound money and what it brings, an economy that is able to save and look into the future and all of that. And as far as governance, well, it's clearly a better way to govern money because there's never been a governing body of money that can sustain itself indefinitely. They all give in to fiat eventually. And we've seen this throughout history. So because of that, clearly, if we just took ESG at its face value, just those words, clearly, yes, Bitcoin is ESG. But these words they're marketing slogans, and it's really always about just trying to increase control. And like I talked in my presentation about memes, it's about defining the frame. And so they come up with a slogan of ESG. They get to define what those words mean, and then they always get to set the criteria of whether or not you're ESG. And so it becomes this system where it's just like, the guy, BlackRock or whoever else that gets to like be their ultimate decision maker with what ESG is and is not, they're always the governing body that you have to go through to say, please, Mr. Fink, let me use my Bitcoin. And oh no, that's not ESG. Or, please let me live in a pod and eat the bug. And they'll say, oh yes, that's very ESG, you can have it. And you always have to listen to them. And so they use it to maintain that narrative control rather than actually promoting any kind of social good. And that's effectively like it's leaning towards a more centrally planned communistic style of governance. And I reject that on theoretical and empirical grounds. And so, yeah, it's bad.
How does a guy like Larry Fink get quote unquote in power?
That's a good question. And I don't know that I'm like the best expert on this, but it does feed on itself. So when you have a group that's already making a lot of the big investment decisions and everyone's going through them to ask like, hey, I need money, they get to set the standard for, whether or not they write a check. And that if everyone continues to believe that they need to go through that person and they cannot find a way to go around that person and just do their own thing, then they're going to start bending the knee more and more, and it kind of feeds on itself. So I assume some kind of process like that has happened over time. But there's probably someone who understands these dynamics much better than myself.
So do you think that like now, as the board is set, like, is it like a correct time to attack that narrative of the ESG, or should we wait for ESG to become like the new PETA, like the PETA has become like a joke for animal activism, so they're gonna become something similar? And then
yeah, that's an interesting question. I think because of how much they're pushing it, it's a great time to push back on it. It's not just a background narrative thing. That's kind of like, if there is something and you're like too early to the punch, because you see it too early and it's growing, and you want to be the one who's, you're Cassandra or something. That's there could perhaps be a way in which that kind of strategy, you're too early, and so you're not able to convince the people that this is actually a threat. But then when it starts to reveal itself, which I think, over the past few years, how economics has shaken itself out, it's become more obvious what the issue is, along with many other topics. And it seems like that is a good time to really hone in on a particular issue. So they're pushing that, and a lot of businesses are having to bend the knee to it. So it would also be great, I once again, I'm certainly not an expert on this kind of stuff, but like, I've seen references to, like, for instance, oil and gas companies finding themselves having to bend the knee to like an entity like BlackRock, where they have to kind of be like, oh yeah, well, yeah, we're kind of the bad guys, but look, we need to make money. And they have to put themselves in that negative framing of like, at best, like this necessary evil or something like that. But with Bitcoin, we can totally get around that. And why I think that is important is, we depend on the oil and gas industries. And, I think, Saifedean and Alex Epstein and all these guys have done a really good job of pointing these kind of dynamics out. And if it's the fact that we depend on these people, we can't really move beyond them. And this, especially like not right now, maybe in some distant future, some person will come up with, some other better way of handling energy, but we can't rely on that right now. If that's the case, then they cannot be beholden to that, because you're destroying civilization. If you're getting them if you're making them hate themselves and they wither away through various means, like you just keep chipping away, you're destroying civilization altogether. So with Bitcoin, a oil and gas company can start to buck that trend and start to see models of profitability that do not rely on the same kind of economic structures. And we see so many oil and gas companies coming in on Bitcoin because they want to mine Bitcoin with flared gas and all of that. It gives them a new path out, and they don't have to bend the knee anymore. And so I think that's important. We rely on energy, food, money. These are very fundamental things to getting a civilization off the ground at all. And that's not stuff we should play lightly with. And so if we can break those fundamental people out of that mindset and see a better vision forward, then yeah, we should totally be working on that. Now, do we need to convince BlackRock or whatever? I don't know. But we should definitely, and I also don't know that we need to be convincing any journalists or anything like that as far as like the actual like public narrative per se, although that is very good defense. But if you can convince those actual, oil and gas executives to realign their visions with a more positive future with Bitcoin, I think that'd be great.
Let me interrupt you here. I want to. You've given us the why we should fight the ESG narrative, and that was a very good job. We've given us the what, the what we're going to use to fight ESG in general. You're going to use Bitcoin, and it's going to empower oil and gas companies to basically skirt the issue. I want to drill down on the how. How can Bitcoiners, in general, just the normal plebs, how can we push forward the fight?
I thought you were going to ask the where.
The where is Texas.
Okay.
We have the where. You come to Texas and you fight for freedom. Yeah, the how. That's going to be the perennial debate going forward. But I will stand by the great nation of Texas. Yeah, as far as the how, I think a lot of Bitcoiners are already doing this. I view guys like you as like, please don't take this as an insult, as sort of the foot soldiers. in the sense of when I was on Twitter back in the day, sort of before Bitcoin Twitter was a thing, I would have to be in the comments, in the replies of anyone who's saying something stupid, and I have to go in there with like a shank and do what I can to tell them why they're wrong.
You were a reply guy.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. And there's still, I mean, even there's still some amazing reply guys who even have, like a lot of followers, but still do a great job. It's not like a follower thing or anything like that. The reply guy is a very important role.
Yes.
And it's been an amazing thing to watch the amount of reply guys, the foot soldiers of the Bitcoin revolution grow, because it's gotten to the point, it's like, Bitstein's the meme master, but it's like, I'm not like, there's not even a reason for me to open my mouth half the time, because I'll look at a tweet and I scroll down the replies and it's like everything I was going to say has already been said because I was 10 seconds late.
Yep.
And so that's an amazing thing, because that means that wherever people turn, people will be forced to hear the alternative side. And I think that's important. I think, that's one of the big issues with our, state of affairs. It's one of the beautiful things about the internet is this fight for being able to have alternative views. And that's not to say that the alternative view is always correct, although they have a pretty good track record. But the fact that we shouldn't be trying to funnel all information through one organization that gets to decide what is true, what is not, what is the correct way to think, what is the wrong way to think. It just doesn't seem healthy for a society to be doing that. But because of the reply guys, because of the ghosts of blank accounts that, you can ban people and yet they still return, there's just no getting rid of them. They're always there to get in the replies and share that alternative narrative. Some people do it in a very serious tone, and I think that's good for some audiences. Some people do it in the Greg tone, which I think is great for other audiences. And so not only do you get the alternative view, you get it in every flavor imaginable. And so people will always have to contend with that. And, eventually they'll start to kind of see where these ideas are coming from, at least hopefully. I mean, those are the pre-coiners. There's always going to be the obstinate people who want nothing of it, and then don't offer any good rebuttals to help us change our opinion, because I think all of us are very interested in learning. If we're wrong about something, we actually do want to know. But yeah, so that how the reply guy, I think, is a very important role. And we also have like reply guys at higher levels too, in the sense of, there are the people who write, very well-written articles to explain this. So I think that how it both, that aspect of it helps us constantly get an alternative narrative out so that we do not get shut out of the conversation as it goes on. And because I believe we hold the truth, the truth eventually works its way out to people. It also helps us sharpen our own thinking skills, because, we have to see new ways, not often, but we see, new ways of people attacking Bitcoin, or some new rehash of an old way. And it sharpens our ability to figure out, why is this a belief in the first place, and how do we fight it? There's always new people that come into the discussion, which is part of why we always have these same old, arguments reappearing beyond just people
Endless.
like Schiff. You always have the new person who's like, I'm new to Bitcoin, and yeah, it's volatile or whatever. I just put up a video yesterday of like, it's always funny. It's like people think they're original when they say these things, like it's volatile, it's waste energy or whatever. And I put the video of Trump when he found out that Ginsburg had died, and he's like, what? I'm hearing this for the first time. That's how I feel constantly. But yeah, it sharpens our abilities, and it does kind of work its way out to many different strata of the discussion. So, you get the Nick Carters speaking at like sort of a, high level, like the, hedge fund guys might be reading whatever publications or, TV shows or whatever he ends up on. You have the, dregs of society seeing the Greg tweets. And it works its way into everyone. So I think that's important. So that's one part of it, is just constantly getting our side not shut out, which I think we do a great job of, and sharpening our arguments, which I think we've also done. I think there's a lot of arguments, for instance, like the fact that flaring natural gas is really good for Bitcoin, and how that's positively affects the environment.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Greg just flared gas a little while ago. Just a second ago.
You see it behind me.
You see all the green? Yeah.
So just a few years ago, that was sort of a fringe argument, in the sense of like, that was like a deep cut. Like, you really knew your stuff if you knew about that way of thinking about Bitcoin. But because people were always there to share that, now it's run of the mill Bitcoin arguments, which means that the Bitcoin economy is learning. It's learning more about its own system, how to defend it, why to defend it, and yeah, it just continues to grow. The other thing is, just I don't know. I don't have the ability to do this, but if you, the listeners of the Meme Factory, as I know you do, have access to, executives and other people high up at like oil and gas companies. I mean, start talking to them and get that conversation going. Get them in a non-ship posting account so they too can follow Greg's tweets.
It was a super ironic thing that happened recently. The whole Tesla getting booted from the S&P 500 because they're not ESG enough. I'm super. I don't know that there's a more ironic thing that happened in 2022 than that. And I'm just curious on your thoughts of that.
Yeah, that was very funny. To be clear, if I understand correctly, the S&P 500 specifically had like a special listing of like, hey, these are the cool ESG companies you can invest in. Get on your Vanguard account and throw some dollars at these great companies. So it was kind of a separate thing. So it wasn't like actually kicked out of the S&P 500. They just
really? They weren't booted from the S&P 500?
I don't think so. I don't look at stonks, so I don't.
We call them stinks around here.
I don't look at those either, except for Greg's in the background. But I think that's the case, that they weren't actually kicked out or anything. It was specifically some kind of listing. But that's still like, that's this like, narrative play that they can do of like, oh, Tesla is really bad. And it is quite a thing of beauty to see Tesla, which, God bless him, bought, $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, but then, threw some FUD around about its environmental impact. And then they get, demerited for their own environmental impact. It really is a thing of beauty. I have the same sort of feeling towards, any no coiner out there who gets booted off PayPal or something like that. And, some people unfortunately have to learn the hard way about these things. I try to do my best to teach people the easy way, but some people just don't want it that way.
Oh, you're right. I just DuckDuckGo'd it, and it says that Tesla was expelled from the ESG version of the S&P 500 index. It sounds like a shitcoin to me.
It sounds like getting kicked out of like the theater kid table or something.
Well,
really
going
like
back to what you were saying, right? ESG, it's just another word for communism, and it's like
Nice.
Weinicke's in here.
yeah, for real. Where's Weinicke's at? And it wasn't like
So
like
happy.
they were
He
kicking
said
Tesla out because of
communism.
ESG.
Mhm.
It was because of Elon Musk, because they were mad that Elon Musk was doing what he was doing with Twitter and all that other stuff. And so they're like, okay, well, we're gonna kick you out of the ESG thing. We're gonna find some dirt on you and we're gonna make up this thing that you're not doing. And so that's what we're gonna kick you out for. So
right. I actually do. What was their argument as to like what did Tesla do wrong that deserved that?
You ever seen a cobalt mine?
But clearly they didn't care about that before.
No, exactly.
And
that's the
exactly
thing.
To your point. Yeah.
Yes. That whatever Tesla was doing, but it's not like they changed things. They just like, oh, we're gonna make up a rule, make up a little law that you're not doing, and then we're gonna kick you out.
Yeah.
You get out of the cool
redefine terms. Cobalt mines were ESG, but now they're not. And they never were. We've always been at war with East Asia.
Yeah, child labor's still good.
This
Cobalt
is what it
mine's
says.
bad.
It says Tesla's lack of a low carbon strategy and codes of business conduct, along with racism and poor working conditions, reported at Tesla's factory.
They don't have a union. That's their
the
problem.
That's their problem. They're not communist enough.
They were racist.
I did like watching Elon. He said something about, he outwardly saying like the political attacks will grow. He's calling it. He knows what he's up against. Hopefully he fully appreciates it, and so he can achieve whatever it is that he wants to achieve.
Look, I got to interrupt you, Steiner. I've got a bone to pick with Yellow. I said communism, and I didn't get any.
Yeah. You didn't?
No, I didn't get one. I said it. Thank you. Go ahead. You can keep going now.
Communism.
Labrada, you're deducting points from Yellow right now, right?
Yep.
Good.
So,
back
ESG
to
is
the
No. We gotta figure this out.
G is for gulag.
Back to the Illuminati.
What are you talking about?
Nothing. I know nothing.
Well, since we totally ruined the flow there, and that's my fault. Who are your current favorite memers and shit posters on Bitcoin Twitter? Who's been surprising you?
Who's been surprising me? Honestly, I have not been on Twitter as much the past while. I took a few months off at one point, and I've just been too busy with work and other stuff, so I haven't actually been on too much. So I also get on, and then you also have like banned accounts that have new names. I don't know who they are.
Just sounds like fuck you, Greg, with a lot of extra steps.
Were you fishing for a compliment?
No.
Yeah. He was fishing
for an insult.
Yes. I'm always fishing for an insult. All right, so you do a great job of taking bigger ideas and distilling them down. It's the core essence of memery, but you also do a very good job of it with your speech. What is your process for digesting large ideas and then bringing them back to the community in something that's a little more compact?
That's a really interesting question.
Thank you.
I think one thing that has really benefited me is I lucked out in that I learned about Austrian economics very early. I learned about it in high school, and I was hardcore into that well before Bitcoin. And in fact, everything I say about Bitcoin is really just taking all of my ideas from then and replacing gold with Bitcoin. And not being a negative Nancy, not having like doom and gloom, but actually having finally a more positive vision, because it's like we don't have to wait for everything to collapse and hope that people learn their lesson. We can just build something better and upgrade. The reason I bring that up is because I think first and foremost, I do think that having a good theoretical foundation, which I do believe that like kind of the Austrian framework is, it allows you to be able to process things better. Like, ideas, facts, stats, all these things they're just out there. You can interpret things in any number of ways. And we need good theory prior to that to be able to actually interpret those facts. So, when I think of what's going on with the inflation right now, there are a lot of people who earnestly believe that, it's because of, supply chain breakdowns because of they get like that causal thing on this. Like people can't just look and see, oh, it's the money printing.
It's Russia's fault.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. Like the Putin price hike. So like all of this stuff, it's like, I don't know, maybe like the Putin thing happened. It must be because of that or whatever. Because I had a good theoretical framework. I mean, I've been complaining about inflation since before it was a lot of inflation. I was complaining about 2% inflation as a quote target. Like that's what they go for. Even that's bad. And for me, because I understand that money printing, and a lot of us here now understand, like money printing is, that in the olden days, that was inflation. That's what we defined inflation as. Because we understand that, when we see the M2 money supply go not just parabolic, but vertical overnight, they print, a third of all money or whatever. We can look at that and be like, oh yeah, prices are going to go up. And so we're not surprised by it. So it makes it, because of that, we're able to process. There's a lot going on in the world over the past few years. But Bitcoiners, because we had that theoretical framework of understanding money in the way that we do, when we see that happen, it's like we immediately know how to process that information. When we see prices go up, we don't have to start going down those, like I said, like epicycles of like, oh, well, like, all the weird like government policy stuff around how they present inflation. We can just put our laser eyes on the fact that it was, they printed a lot of money.
So if I understand what you're saying that you are able to distill the ideas of particularly Bitcoin because you had the Austrian economics framework in place beforehand.
I believe so. I believe that kind of has helped because.
So let's talk about that. How do you build up a framework?
You spend a lot of time thinking. That's effectively what it is. So
what's great is that like Goldbugs already did this for us for the most part. Like it's so easy to talk to a boomer about Bitcoin if you just switch the word Bitcoin for gold and then explain Bitcoin to them afterwards. Like that, I don't know what you think about that. That's sort of been my experience.
Well, that's exactly as I said. That's how I got into Bitcoin, is because I understood, the arguments around the gold standard and why it was a good thing, and then as soon as it clicked that, oh, Bitcoin is like a digital gold, and we can quibble with that meme in particular or whatever, but that made it click for me, and I was able to then process everything. So there's a lot of people who say, oh, Bitcoin changes everything and it totally like changes your worldview and all of that. And it's kind of funny because my worldview has certainly expanded in the past, however many years. However, the fundamentals have remained the same, and the fundamentals for me didn't have to shift. Now, for a lot of people, they didn't get to learn about Austrian economics beforehand. I was lucky in that I was introduced into that early on and prior to Bitcoin. But my point is having gotten that, Bitcoin didn't like totally shake my perception of reality. It certainly expanded a lot of ideas. It helped me I learned a lot from it. However, it didn't I didn't have to go through a whole religious experience, because it was just I already understood it. It was second nature to me. And I think having that theoretical background helped a lot. So that's kind of the first part, is you have to have a theoretical theoretical framework that you're working on. It's what is it that you're even trying to argue? So in my talk, if you remember, I did harp on, the importance of kind of memeing for truth. I don't think it's good. It can be fun, but we're not out here memeing necessarily. Some might. I don't. Anyway, some might be memeing just purely for shit posting. But I think for a lot of Bitcoiners, they're trying to meme because they believe something about the world and they want to help others believe that too. And so there's a desire towards truth. So once you have like kind of your conception of what truth is, then it's also a matter of trying to figure out, well, how do you take that truth and distill it? And I don't know that I have like specific answers to that. I feel like a lot of it is just sort of this tacit knowledge of like, I've been on the internet way too long. I've seen it all. I've seen the way that people argue online. I see the way in which certain memes just kind of do well. What kind of humor works, stuff like that. It's all very tacit. But you start with knowing what truth is, and then you can take these different templates of humor and argumentation and persuasion and fit Bitcoin into it. One misconception that a lot of people had about my talk was that I was basically almost prescribing the idea of like 3-word memes, 3 words good or something like that. And what I was actually trying to say was that that's just how it emerges. For whatever reason, the good memes tend to be like that. It doesn't mean all good memes are 3 words, and that's the only way, or that you should be sitting around trying to think of 3 words. It just happens to be that we notice that a lot of memes end up like that.
Fucking Greg.
Great example. Very
Bitcoin
powerful
fixes
truth.
this.
Orange coin good.
Number go up.
Success.
It was it was actually falsified as a sort of prescriptive thing by have fun staying poor. It was a very powerful forward meme. So but the other thing is like memes are more than just like pictures online and little sayings. What I was also trying to get at in that talk was kind of that bigger picture of like just rhetoric in general. So it's really thinking about rhetoric at a high level, persuasion, and thinking about narrative crafting as a whole. And on the internet, because perhaps like at McLuhan, medium is the message or whatever, we find ourselves using those templates and those media as a way to convey the messages. But that's not the only way in which ideas spread. And I think that's also why a good theoretical framework is needed, so you can really suss out the truth, and then you can adapt it to whatever kind of media is required.
All right. Well, I want to wake up RD.
So no Luna tattoo? Yeah.
I thought it was like too soon to talk about Luna.
Okay.
When you mentioned it,
did we get confirmation that that's like a real tattoo?
Yeah,
that's a real tattoo.
It's a real tattoo.
Yeah.
It might really went to zero.
It might be one of those like that lasts 2 years, but like it's real.
It's henna.
No.
Like, yeah, there's like tattoos that last for like a year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You don't go deep.
Yeah.
So there's not even real skin in the game.
Chair force.
Yeah.
Well, it might be a real
that's such a great metaphor for the whole thing. It's like you're willing to get a tattoo, but not the real tattoo.
No.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. That's the thing.
They won't go balls deep.
It's the receipt of a tattoo.
We're not sure.
It's a proof of stake tattoo.
RD, you here? Are you awake? In it? You eating that pizza yet?
Hey, mate.
It's about time. It's about time for that question.
Fucking hell.
Although I think you have 2 tonight, right?
I did, but
did.
I'll do my normal one. Okay, Michael. If the meme factory did exist, and we all know it doesn't, which one of us would you like? Which one of us would you retweet? And which one of us would you mute?
Like.
I mean, I feel like I have to mute Greg, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
As far as the retweet, I feel like I see Labrahodl liking me a lot, right?
Woohoo!
So I'll just
Yes.
because he's a good
Nice.
friend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is going really well.
You're doing great.
And
Who are you retweeting?
Unlike retweet, mute.
So that was for the there was a like too.
It's a
Okay.
lot to process. We get it.
Gotcha. Sorry, I think I missed that there was a third.
We're high maintenance.
It's a
We
tricky
understand it.
question, I know.
Yeah. I'll like RD. He asked a good question that I
Nice.
didn't actually
Yes.
understand.
Nice.
simple like.
Good memes go on threes, you know.
Update your grinder.
Greg, how did the animosity start?
What animosity?
The fuck you, Greg.
It started inside of our chat. If you
That
know,
chat doesn't exist, Greg. Come
right?
on.
It's chat that doesn't exist. So like, if you know me long enough and you interact with me long enough on a long enough time limit, it really doesn't have to be that long. I'm gonna piss you off.
On a long enough timeline, fuck you, Greg.
Exactly. So
Gotcha.
then part of the way that we were honing our skills at memecraft early on is that we would take our internal fights into the streets of Twitter and see who could out meme one another. And Chairforce and I were going back and forth. I was just, fuck you, Chairforce, fuck you, Greg, fuck you, Chairforce, fuck you, Greg. And we were memeing back and forth. He won. He absolutely hands down won, beat the piss out of me. He bought the nameplate for one of CryptoCloak's printers that says fuck you, Greg on it. So like forever now at CryptoCloaks, there's a printer named fuck you, Greg.
And the genius of CryptoCloaks was that he progressively made the next buys a lot more expensive. He added a one next to each of the next purchases.
You mean he added
which
a
made
zero?
Right, whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Greg. Which
Exactly.
made it damn near impossible for the average person to buy the next plate.
Right. Well, yeah, the price went up so much, like I couldn't do it back to him. He had found a way to like
exactly.
Yeah.
Greg got priced out.
I got priced out. I was like, fuck.
Here's the thing, though. Like he won the battle, but I feel like he won the war.
Well, then I just leaned into it. I mean,
Yeah,
like, if somebody's memeing you,
you agree and amplify.
Exactly.
And now everyone knows
to,
Greg and Chairforce. You know,
he's not even on the stream.
I started doing surveys on Twitter where I would do the question, and then the last one was instead of see the results, it was FUG or fuck you, Greg, and that kind of caught on too.
Yep.
So that
was you, Pedro.
I think I did the first one. I'm
did.
pretty sure I could pull up the first tweet of that. Yeah.
I
think it was one of your first laser eyes, right?
No, that was Greg.
Yeah, that was the first laser eye. He came up with it. I shot my load early. We were supposed to all don them at 50K.
Chairforce.
Wow, I think this is the first time that Greg is admitting that he shot his load early.
Well, that's the narrative. That's the narrative.
Previously denied that, so this is great. This is a really good. Thank you, Bitstein, for bringing out the truth. You brought out the truth in this stream that Greg shot his load early.
Finally admitted it.
Look, the reality is I trusted and didn't verify. I trusted a Matt Odell tweet that we had broken 50K, put on my laser eyes, and then everybody told me that I had shot my load early. And I vehemently denied it because Matt Odell wouldn't lie to me.
Well, I still have my laser eyes. I think it's a wonderful meme. So for everyone involved, I thank you.
Cool. All right, so we are getting towards the end of our hour here, and I'd be remiss if I didn't pass this off to Sean for another important part of the night.
Well, Bitstein, first of all, thanks, man, for coming on. You've been out of the matrix for a long time, and you're still going strong. So we respect that. Also, another halving's coming up in 2024, right? Bitcoin time, it moves slow, but also moves fast. And we're going to have a little halving party and by little I mean big. And you're invited. You're invited. Your family's invited. Come on out, enjoy it.
What block height?
It's gonna.
Yeah,
Becca
block
knows the block height.
What block height? Sean.
8. Sean, what
Yeah,
is
Sean.
it? I'll do the first number, 8.
Okay, Michael, what's the second number?
Oh my god.
It's 4.
And then there's
Labra, what's the next one?
Dog.
Yeah,
Good job.
damn it.
840,000. Block height 840,000. We're gonna have a party because to us it's the Olympics of Bitcoin every 4 years, and it's just cool to watch the thing do its thing.
You know who wins every 4 years? Bitcoin. Bitcoin wins all the medals.
And fiat loses.
30 seconds, Mr. Bitstein. Are there any other rabbit holes that you've gone down?
Oh man, none that won't get me canceled. No,
Do
I
tell.
don't know. Well, no, the world has like caught up to me on a lot of things. You know, it's kind of funny. Like I was talking about meat, you know, many years ago, and now people will show up to Bitcoin. It's like, why do you guys eat a lot of meat? And people don't even know who I am necessarily, and that's pretty funny. But yeah, I don't know that I really have anything new yet. It's kind of what I'm seeking out. There's been this like, you know, the world has caught up with Bitcoin, and you know now there's seed oil disrespecting has gone mainstream and stuff like that. So I'm kind of on the lookout, you know, for the next thing. I'll share it when I have it.
We super appreciate your time tonight.
Will you share it on your podcast that you don't do anymore?
Yeah, on our annual episode.
Actually, we should make like a tweet, like a fake
Noted
new trend
78.
like this, like fuck soups. Soups are fucking stupid, and make it trending. Like
All
yeah,
right.
there's
Fuck
like
potatoes.
yeah.
Fuck potato leek
Fuck
soup.
potatoes.
But
Just make up fake
leeks-
rabbit holes. That'd be
leeks-
fun.
Yeah, like a fake
leeks
rabbit.
suck.
Do you know that when you boil stuff, you lose all the ingredients, and like fuck soups?
Bob
I
Malakis on
can't
the
disagree.
case.
Bob Malakis is about to have a new article.
He's on it.
All right, Bitstein, can you tell our audience where they can find you if they want to see more of your material?
Yeah, best place is Bitstein on Twitter, and the Nakamoto Institute at nakamotoinstitute.org. Hopefully you can find your way around it. Some people have trouble with that apparently.
Greg does, but all of us are good.
Only potatoes.
And also the Noted Bitcoin podcast for our once a year annual episode.
That's with you and Pierre, right?
Yes.
Do you validate parking, Daisy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
I got
All
you
right,
covered.
everybody.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, the having party.
I will be there.
Thank you, Bitstein.
Have a good
That was
night.
great.
Cheers,
Thank
man.
you for your time.
For your time.